All right, guys, welcome to another edition of Tuesday at 10. Thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. We're happy to be here, and it's spring break, right? But we're in real estate, so there's no such thing as spring break, right? There's no such thing as holidays and weekends, and a lot of times we have to forego that stuff and make adjustments. We try to take off time whenever we can, but they always say that if your business is ever slow in real estate, just go on vacation, you know, and then you'll get five deals going. You have eight buyers that want to see properties when you're out of town, right? So anyway, special spring break edition. But good to see you guys. I think we have another couple agents popping in here in just a little bit. So Daniel, how's everything going in your neck of the woods? Your fish are looking nice and vibrant today. The
Thank
ecosystem looks good back there. How's the pH in the aquarium and how's everything in the
you.
pH in your house? How's that going?
Everything's going well. We have a lot of homes under contract, but there's a lot of fires going on as well, like you said. So we have some appraisal issues with some of them and some lender required repairs and others, but that's just part of the game. So just trying to keep those alive and add more to the pipeline, you know. So that's the biggest thing is just keeping it moving. But yeah, can't complain. Can't complain. It's going well. I'm gonna go drop off a for sale sign here shortly, right after this in a lockbox and get ready to launch another listing. If not today, maybe tomorrow.
Cool, cool. Good stuff. And Horacio, how's everything going, man? Haven't seen you in a little bit, man. Glad to see you back in the mix. How's everything going with you and business and family? How's everything, man?
Everything is going well. Everything is going day by day, but getting back into the real estate business. And fortunately, we've had a few good months where we had multiple closings per month and all that. Now it's just, February was kind of a slow month for me, but I'm already getting back into it. So hopefully this month it'll pick up and all that. I got to keep up with y'all. I have to. God, you guys are just killing it.
Well, and we'll talk about that too, man. But it comes at a price, right?
Of course, yeah.
Everything in life, there's pros and cons, and I feel, and I know Josie, especially on the admin side and on the TC side, and Josie's been handling a lot of the media, and then everything else comes into play. Life happens, and everyone's got children and pets and commitments, and you're trying to manage your calendar and your family life and social life if you can have one, and and it all comes at a price. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
so Josie, how's everything going with you? I know you've been super busy on the media side, and photos are going well, listings are going well. Tell us about it.
Yeah, no, things are busy. Things are busy on the back end. So there's a lot of movement that's happening. There's a lot of listings going out. There's a lot of deals that are going through, but there's you have to put out the fires and they all come at a price. Nothing is easy. Um, and we can all sit and say like, oh, it's going great, it's going good. But, when things compile on top of each other, you really have to keep in check of your own mental health throughout the whole thing as well, um, and it's just a lot of things that people don't see. They think, oh, realtors, they just go and open the door and then they get paid. And, that's just the public opinion, but they don't see everything else that goes into it and trying to just get it to the finish line on top of your daily life, like you said, with kids and pets and just the day-to-day operations. And it's always great to celebrate each other's wins because they're very, very, very deserving. But at the same time, like throughout the whole process, like you can't forget to check up on yourself as well before, or else you're just going to burn out. So things are really good. Things are really busy. And right now I'm kind of in a headspace where I need to do that check-in, but I'm grateful for the check-in because that means I'm busy. So there's a lot of movement, which is great. I'm really excited about it. So I can't complain about that for sure. It's better than the alternative. So we're good there.
Yeah, for sure. And it's it turns into the juggling act, and Horacio, like you said, even before we jumped on, you see the glamorous side of it, and you see the HGTV and Million Dollar Listing, and which I was watching Million Dollar Listing over the weekend, and it was like the old episodes with Madison and Josh Flagg and Josh
Oh,
Altman.
damn, that is old. Those were great episodes though, because like
Well,
nobody
they
knew what
were.
was really going on.
But
Mhm.
what I really noticed watching back again after all these years is I hadn't seen him in a long time. Talk about hard-nosed conversations, and these guys were talking, and I know a lot of it is scripted and stuff like that, but even the conversation, sometimes we have reservations about making a recommendation to a seller, to maybe we need to improve the price 10,000, 15,000. They're talking about lowering the price 1.3 million. You know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
you know, bigger dollar comes with bigger responsibility, and they're talking about pricing and they say, well, seller wants the price here, but I think it should probably be about 800,000 less than that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, it's hard conversations. And like John Sy says, we're paid to have those hard conversations. And that's where the liability comes in. There's no liability without compensation. And uh, us as professionals, people trust us to be honest and have those hard conversations. So it just reminded me of that. Yeah, and then they say, potential commission, 185,000.
Like
Yeah.
potential commission,
Potential, yeah.
Yeah,
not
and
guaranteed.
right. Well, and then I started doing the math, and one of them, Madison, was there. It was like potential commission 160,000. I started doing the math, and that's less than 2%.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So, but when you get to the higher dollar, I think a lot of times the commission kind of follows suit. It's the same thing in commercial. Commercial, the commissions are a little bit lower, but you're dealing with higher dollar properties. So anyway, but yeah, it's the when people get a kick out of it and they say, I'm going to get into real estate so I can make my own schedule and work when I want and want to have more time. And, you go from working a 40-hour a week job to working 24/7.
Yeah.
And, and it doesn't stop. And, that's a challenge for us as agents is to put those boundaries. But, even with those boundaries, that comes at a price too.
Well, like
So,
for me, if something comes across my desk or if I get a text or something, I have to do it right then and there,
Hmm.
almost every time, because otherwise it'll just pile up or I'll forget or it'll be bothering me that I need to go back and tend to that question or whatever. So it's like you're always on. And I try to put it away like if we're at dinner or something, but even then I'm like, I'm gonna just answer this real quick. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just part of it.
But
Otherwise,
I feel like it's a catch 22 because I feel like sometimes you have to answer it either then or there, or they're just gonna go and find somebody else to answer them. So it's like it's just such a fine line when it comes to putting boundaries down. And I know everybody's always like, you enforce your boundaries, but sometimes the boundary means a commission check or whether you can buy food that month. So it's just a very fine line. But it's like, what Arthur says, like all these shows, they glamorize things and so the public opinion has such a different view of what our day-to-day life is. But no, good conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I've run into, and I'm pretty sure you guys have heard it a million times, where people think we're just sitting down and literally doing nothing. Like we collect a check and they do all the work, or them meaning the client, and it's like, no, you really don't have any idea of what's going on, and And you're absolutely right how like you try to set up boundaries or things like that. Like for example, me, I had one client who called me or texted me during the my mom's service, and because I wasn't able to show her properties that day, she moved on after me telling her. But she's like, "Well, I'm in town to see these houses, so I need to see them." So it's kind of like you get, and then you have people who are like, "Hey, take your time. This is not important. Like do what you have to do, and then we'll kind of set up a call a few weeks later, and we'll kind of take it from there. So you just kind of it just depends on the type of person you actually get, because there's some that are just it's a cutthroat, game, but then it's also you have your clients that are with you 100%.
For
Yeah.
So
sure. Well, and I want everyone here on the call and everyone that's watching, just remember that you have a support system behind you too. So, and I know this is hard to do as well, but like I know Daniel does it, especially when him and his family go out of town, or if I'm out of town or Josie's out of town or out of commission. If you have something that's a must, take care of, an event, a family function, something like that, and you have things kind of in the works, let someone know. Let Josie know, let Daniel know. If it's someone in Brownsville, let's let Armando know, or somebody in the area, and say, hey, look, I'm going to be out of commission. I'm going to be out of touch for the next 3 days. I have a potential client. They might want to see some stuff. Do you think you could cover them for me if they need something? You know what I mean? So just remember, you have people here in the area, local. Daniel has agents in San Antonio. We have agents down here in the Valley. Horacio, you have access to us and the entire network. So just let us know, and uh, we'll
We'll
help.
go open the doors for you. That's
Yeah,
okay.
we'll help. We'll go open the doors. If it's something you need more help and you want to co-list or co-represent the buyer, whatever you need, we'll help do whatever. So just remember, and especially if it's something that's super pressing, because we know that we need help sometimes too, and I know that I'm very fortunate to have Josie. If I'm out of town and something comes up, Josie helps me. If I'm down here and I need something in San Antonio, Daniel helps me. But Horacio, just remember we're here for you as well, and all of our other agents. Okay, so let us know what we can do. And going back to being available, I had a client of mine actually, it's a client in San Antonio, and I was going to go show her that she was a referral. So she came to me. She had two bad agents that she had worked with, and she was ready to move on. She was real frustrated, and she came from a referral source. So I want to really take good care of her. So she wanted to see some new construction. She mentioned an area. I found the new construction, but it was like 8:45 at night. Okay. I wanted to register her with the builder before sending her the properties, because we all know what happens when you send them the properties. They look up the link and then they call the builder. And if they make contact with the builder, we really have to fight for our, even though we're the ones that sent them the property, the builder needs to prove the procuring cause. Anyway, so I reached out to this one guy that I knew worked for that builder, and I said, okay, I'm going to reach out to him. I'm going to give him a few minutes. Nothing. Didn't hear from him, and I know it was late. Believe me, I'm always an advocate for that. If it's too late, I understand most times, but this was one of those instances. So I went online and I said, hey, I need a ex builder representative in San Antonio. And I found a guy. I knew that that was his neighborhood. I sent him a Facebook message. I found his phone number, sent him a text, and he got back to me like that. So guess where I registered that client? And that's that the first person that I reached out to was an acquaintance of mine. I mean, I know them. I've known them for many, many years. But when it comes to the needs of the client, I needed to get them registered right then and there. So, there's really no right way to do it. the thing that I've been taught by coaches and stuff like that is they always tell me if you're going to draw a boundary, be happy with that boundary. Meaning, if you're going to say, look, I'm not taking calls after 7 p.m., you have to make almost like a pact with yourself and say, if I get calls after 7 p.m., I told myself I'm not going to take them. So you need to be okay with what those repercussions are going to be. If you lose the client, if you lose the showing, you need to be happy with that result. But at the same time, building boundaries, it protects, just like Josie was talking about, it protects your mental health, protects your family time, it protects your schedule. And that's the most important thing is to try to protect our time. And, we feel like, okay, well, we need to sprint, we need to sprint, we need to keep going. And we can do that for a certain amount of time. After a few years doing that, you start feeling the wear and tear, on your body, on your mind, on your time, on your everything. So, but no, good stuff. But yeah, do y'all have anything else to add about that? Anything else going on? Any questions that we can help you guys with, or any issues? Hey, Horacio, are you going to be able to go to the regional rally coming up?
That's this coming Thursday, right?
You know what? I don't. There's one in Houston, but I'm going to be going to the one in Austin on April 7th.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I might be. I'll be there that weekend. So yeah, I'll
Yeah,
probably pick it up. Okay.
yeah. So if you can go, man, going to these events is super super helpful.
Okay.
Just being in the room, and actually our CEO Leo Pareja is going to be there in Austin, so it's going to be super cool. And he's the nicest guy, the most approachable guy, super knowledgeable. Um, so yeah, it's going to these events is a game changer. Big things happen at these events. They make announcements. They talk about new company rollouts. They talk about trends that are happening in the industry. And then some of the biggest producers in the area, there's going to be people from all over Texas. There's going to be people from all over the southern U.S. That are going to be going because they have regional rallies everywhere, different parts of the country. So yeah, April
Hmm.
7th, if you can come, man.
That's
It's
it. That's the thing. Like even Alan and I, like almost every time we try to get to EXP Con and the big events, and because when you're over there, it just fires you up and it gets you. It's almost like a battery charger for the rest of the year, and then you
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
charged up again, and then you go get charged up again, and you can't help but be charged up because you're around the biggest producers in the nation, in the world, really. There's people that come internationally. So, and then you just meet a lot of great people and it really makes you feel like you're a part of the community too, and that which is important, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, something to definitely put in your calendar and just aim to try to go if you can.
For
If you
sure.
can't make it, it's all good. But if you can make it, try to make it. I think it's really important.
And that's the 7th, right?
Yeah, April the 7th. I think it's a Tuesday or something like that. And it's a full day. Um, but yeah, I mean if you can come, what I think I'm gonna probably do is I'll probably, because it starts at 8:30 in the morning, and even if I'm in San Antonio, the traffic just to get from San Antonio to Austin
Yeah.
be crazy. So I'm probably gonna get to Austin the night before. So I'll probably just stay that night, go to the rally in the morning, and then I'll probably go to San Antonio after that because we have lunch and learn on the 10th. So
Oh, okay. So I might be able to make it for both. Okay.
yeah, I mean, if you
All right.
can, maybe if y'all can come and spend the week, the day up at regional rally, and then come to San Antonio for a couple days, and whatever. Um, it'll be spring break for adults.
Yeah.
Y'all can have your own spring break.
Yeah.
So yeah, just let
and
us
say
know. Let
something.
us know. Let us know what y'all can do, and and they're super fun too. You know what I mean? It's great information, but it's good. You always, like Daniel says, getting charged up when you're in a room. You know, you think, well, I sold X number of units, whatever, and then you're sitting right next to somebody that sold 300 houses last year. You know
Man.
what I'm saying? And they're like, and they look at us like, you guys are working too hard, because they have all these things in place, right? Josie, we were at a meeting and Mario Baez from McAllen, he's one of the top 250 producers in the entire company. And he said that he went to the top 250 event. It was actually in San Antonio. And he said, man, everyone was just, all they were talking about was leverage and the fact that they don't do anything and the fact that they have systems in place and showing agents and people that go drop off their signs and do their listing agreements. He was like, I'm convinced that none of these agents, I don't think they do anything. But what they are is
They're
their
business owners.
boss.
They're business owners.
They're
Yeah.
business owners. They're the boss. And they have their people in place to do all those things. And they come in to oversee and they negotiate and they do stuff like that. But, they're not employees. They are the boss. They're the business owner. So it's a completely different way to operate. And we've had people and they tell us all the time, you need this and you need these people and it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Daniel and I are very much in the thick of it. Josie too. We're in the thick. We're doing almost everything, and we try to bring people in to help. And sometimes it's like you have to let go, and you have to be willing to reinvest in your business because it's gonna cost money.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a very different way of operating. And but when you can outsource stuff like that, and Leo, our CEO, he's the number one advocate for that. Anything that's not your highest value per hour, you have to get rid of it. And it's a challenge. So that's why we need to go to these events so we can we'll get there eventually. We need to do it. And they always say the best time to hire somebody is when you don't need them. Because when you need them, it's too late.
But you know what's good is I think Alan and I will eventually build a business, something, that looks something like that. But I think it's been great that we've been in the trenches big time. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, for sure.
really learn every angle of what's going on. And but yeah, I mean that would be great to eventually build it to something like that. I think we'll get there. But like Alan said, we're kind of control freaks. Like we want to know that we're on the ball at all times, and it's about kind of letting go and letting other people fly with it. But I think we'll have to get there sooner than later.
Yeah,
But
because
we'll
it's about having something sustainable too. When you're firing on all cylinders at all times, that's not sustainable. Even big guys like Jay Kinder, they talk about years where they sold hundreds of homes, and they say that those were some of the worst times of their life. You
Hmm.
know, you have a huge bank account, but everything else in your life is suffering. Your
Because of the
health.
lack of systems.
What's that?
Because of the lack of systems.
Well, think about it. Think about
the
if
time.
if you have
No.
if you're selling 300 plus homes, that means you're closing almost one house a day. Just imagine the draw dealing with buyers, sellers, contracts, ins and outs, amendment. I mean, all that stuff. Your mind can't breathe.
Yeah.
There's only, and I've read this over and over again. Your mind can only concentrate on one thing at a time. Did you
Mhm.
know that multitasking is not real? Have y'all ever heard that? The human body and the human mind cannot multitask. It's not possible. You can do things one at a time, back to back, quickly, but you can't do two things at one time. Did you know that the term multitask comes from developing computer software? Computers can multitask, humans cannot. That's why we built computers to multitask. The human brain, if you think about it, think about your day to day operation. You cannot concentrate and do more than one thing at any given time. You can't do it. It's not physically possible. The human mind cannot do it. So, all these things, just imagine pulling at you, the time constraints. You're working 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, on your computer, on your phone, on the road, showings, closings, amendments, all this stuff. You know, your life takes it takes a hit because, I remember Daniel and I would be at conference, right? We'd be at a beautiful restaurant in Las Vegas, having a phenomenal dinner, steak dinner, all this other kind of stuff, and Daniel couldn't enjoy it because a client was ruining his time, right, Dan? I mean,
It was terrible.
it was terrible. And
That was like a $300 dinner too.
yeah, a super beautiful dinner, expensive dinner, and Daniel he couldn't even enjoy it because he was on the phone texting and he had to go take a call because the deal was blowing up and the clients were yelling at him.
They
And
were like they were very like I need service now
Man.
type of people, you know. And they were buying a home and selling a home at the same time, and it was like dependent on each other, and it was like one of the biggest juggling acts of my life.
Hmm.
Um, but I had to do it. But it was a barfer. Alan and I call them barfers, where you just feel you feel
it's true.
you're never gonna forget that, Horacio.
Is section out.
You're not gonna forget it, Horacio. It's a barfer, and and when it happens, if it hasn't happened already, you're gonna notice it. You're gonna say like, "Oh my God, this one's a barfer." Thanks,
That's
Dave.
a marker right there.
Yeah. We have about four of them right now. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Man.
and we look forward to trying to go to bed at night, right? And we try to go to sleep, but we know at 8 a.m. the next morning it's gonna be back in the swing of the madness.
Yeah.
We're gonna be back in the thick of it. So, the good thing is, and I talked about this in our last meeting, but the more that you go through these things, you develop what Brian Carruthers calls it's a rhino skin,
Mhm.
you know, and that's what makes the best agents and we try as hard as we can, but you can't let these things affect you personally, and you eventually develop that rhino skin where it's like, I'm not surprised anymore. Things are happening. People are upset. Things are going south. Whatever the case is, you can't, you have to try your best, and it's not easy to do, but you have to try your best to not let it penetrate your skin. I mean,
Yeah,
get under your skin.
I think I've definitely developed that, and there's been a few times where we weren't hired, for one reason or another, or chosen, another agent was chosen, and it bothered me really, really badly. And now it's like, all right, on to the next. What am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
You have to develop that attitude and just keep going, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I switched, and Alan will remember this, but when I switched from the small brokerage to EXP, the very first deal that I had with EXP, you remember that time when the inspection report and how I was panicking and no, we need to get them out. Why? Because the previous brokerage was all about any problems, get them out, protect our earnest money, and that's it. And within transactions, within after, I was able to talk with Alan, and he kind of guided me through that and all that. It's like what you guys are saying, like there'll be problems that are being there, they'll throw you problems left and right on a transaction, but you just learn how to maneuver it without panicking or freaking out, or letting it get to you. You just kind of figure it out. Now I'm not where you guys are at, because obviously I haven't had as many deals, so obviously each deal will bring you something different, but the experience will definitely give you that thick skin, within time. So, but yeah, that's very true.
For sure. And the biggest thing that I try to help all of my mentees and stuff like that, and because it's very easy to internalize everything that's going on. And it's very easy to think that you're the one responsible for everything, but we're not, right? There are things that, and you have to remember that it's always up to the client. It's never up to us. No decision in a real estate deal has anything to do with us making that decision. So I'm sure y'all can even attest to this. I know Josie's been there too. There are things in a real estate transaction that I would think would be a big deal. And maybe that client doesn't think it's a big deal. So I can't push my opinion, because really that's all it is an opinion. I can't push my opinion on them because it's not up to me. It's not my purchase. It's not my money. This is not my transaction. I'm not the one selling the house. They're the one selling the house. So if someone comes and they say, well, I want X number of dollars in concessions, or I want these, our job is just to say, hey, Mr. Seller, they're asking for $8,500 in concessions. What would you like to do?
Mhm.
I can't say, oh, there's no way. It's not up to me, because they might not think it's a big deal, right? I was in that situation only a couple weeks ago. I thought for sure we had a request for a concession. I was like, oh man. Well, I mean, I thought it was absurd. The seller didn't care. The seller's like, yeah, give it to him. Let's get this deal over with. Okay, cool.
I can't stand it when you're working with an agent on the other side and you communicate something and the agent is like blowing up at you. They'll never go for this. And this is, an outrageous ask. And, I can't believe this. And it's like, I didn't ask for your opinion. I asked you to go communicate it to them and just let me know what they say, and then they just come back and they're like, okay, they agree. And it's like, okay, so your outburst was for nothing. Like, I'm glad I know how you feel about it, but it's not your issue. Like, just communicate it. Like, that's your only job. It's like, just communicate it. We don't need the theatrics with it,
Yeah,
because you never know. They'll just say like, okay, yeah, sure, no problem. You know?
things are hard enough as it is, and then you have
Exactly.
squabbling over non-issues, right? Now, if the seller or the buyer, if they want to make that an issue, then okay, then that's a different story. But it's not up to us to make it an issue. So. But
I
For
run
cool.
sure.
into those filibuster agents that they just have this whole monologue. And I'm like, just go and tell them. Like, that's all I need you to do. Just let's not waste each other's time here. Just go and relay the info and call me back.
Well, and this happens to me all the time. Like a buyer will have a laundry list of repairs, for example, right?
Mhm.
And it's my job to communicate on their behalf. So I'm going to put everything, I'm going to cite on the inspection report, and I'm going to send it to the listing agent. I can't tell you how many times right away I send it over, I get a phone call, and the listing agent, "Dad, oh my God." It's like, hey, have you presented this to the seller? Well, no. I said, okay, look, let's just save each other a lot of grief and just go talk to the seller. and go through the list. Whatever they're willing to do, please let me know. Whatever they're not willing to do, just let me know. It's not that hard. I don't need the fireworks over here. Just if they don't want to do any of it, that's fine. Just tell me. And then it's up to the buyer if they want to continue or not. It's real simple. Because here's the funny thing, sometimes the seller will say, I'll do all of it. How would we know if we don't ask? So there's no one way to go about it. It's just a question of what does the seller think? What does the buyer think? And how are we going to maneuver in and out of that? So
Now, if the buyer asks for your recommendation on things, you need to openly offer your recommendation. That's one of the things they look to you for as their agent. So don't be afraid to, don't just leave it completely up to their opinion. I mean, it is up to them, absolutely, but if they want your opinion on what they should ask for, I'd say, well, I'd ask for this, this, and that at least. And they're like, okay,
well,
you
you
know.
you have to take that with a little grain of salt too, because we can offer advice, right? But we always have to remember that we have to stay in our lane. Okay. We're not contractors, we're not roofers, we're not electricians, we're not plumbers, we're not foundation people. So I understand where Daniel's coming from. Sometimes they do want recommendations, but what I would recommend as a rebuttal to that is to refer them either to the inspector to ask for more clarification on these items, or actually try to get those trades out there to give them, detailed scope of work and estimates and all that other kind of stuff. That way they can make a decision from there. Because what we don't want to have happen is we don't want to have a situation where the buyer, say we're representing the buyer, where the buyer says, well, my agent told me to do this, or my agent recommended this. Because then that opens up a whole other can, and they say, well, is your agent a roofer? No.
Yeah.
Is your agent a plumber? No. And that's where things get real murky. So proceed with caution on that, Daniel. That would be my recommendation, because things can go south real fast. And the other thing is you never want. Here's the other thing you don't want to have happen. And I know for a fact this happened to a good friend of mine at my very first company, and he did not recommend that something be asked for. Okay, it was a issue with a water heater. And he told the buyers, "Well, I don't think that's a big item. Let's ask for other things and not that." Well, it turned out that water heater ended up having a huge malfunction, and it flooded like the whole first floor or something like that. It turned into a huge deal. So the buyer ended up suing. The brokerage got sued, the agent got sued, the seller got sued, and the issue was the buyer said, "Well, my agent told me that wasn't a big deal,"
Mhm.
and it was a big deal. It was like a $30,000 big deal. It was a lot of damage that caused that. So that's what I'm saying. And like, every agent can make up their own mind. It's up to them. They want to run their business however they want to run their business. But one of our brokers and mentors told Daniel and I a long time ago, never attend an inspection ever.
Yeah.
And it's for that reason, because the buyer's going to ask, well, is that a big deal? And if we're the ones that say it, that's why we always want to be the source of the source. We don't want to be the source. It's a lot better if the buyer says, well, my inspector told me this. Okay, the inspector is licensed. The inspector has the credentials to do that, right? So, or my contractor told me this. Well, your contractor is licensed, should be if it's a GC, right? They're licensed, bonded, hopefully, right? So, and that's the reason they're licensed and bonded. Yeah, we have E&O and everything like that, but we don't want to be in those crosshairs when it comes to if something goes wrong. Well, my agent told me to do this, or they told me not to ask for this.
So,
So
so remember, Horacio, if someone asks, just say, I can't help you.
Daniel's going, he's
Just whatever you do, just say,
I'm here to collect the check. That's it.
yeah, exactly.
yeah, I,
It's
I
like I have
have
to go to my
nothing to do with
champagne
it.
mixer after this.
Yeah,
I got things to do.
yeah.
Yeah, so just be careful. You know that there's things just like we talked about. There's no one right way to do things, right? We just
Yeah.
have to exercise our best judgment and remember to stay in our lane. And
Well, truth be told, I used to, okay, for like the first 2 years of my career, I used to create repair amendments completely for my clients. And I would be like, this is what I would ask for if this were my home.
Yeah.
And then if they want to omit anything or add anything, I would do it then. And then, years later, Alan was like, why are you doing that? And why are you doing all that extra work? But at the time, I felt that it was my duty to offer my expertise and what I would do, you know. Now I don't do that anymore, but if someone asks, I'll give my 2 cents here and there. Like if they're completely clueless or first time home buyers, 24 years old, they have no idea what to do. I'll help guide them, but I used to do that.
Yeah.
I would comb through inspection reports. This is important. Wood rot. I'd ask for that. You know, just the obvious stuff that I would ask for.
Of course.
No GFCI anywhere. I'd ask for that. I
well,
was just I was helping my clients.
you have to remember
You
it's
know,
if it's obvious to you, it might not be either obvious or important to them. So that's the way I frame it every time. If it's important to you,
yeah, and that's
let's
what I do now
ask for it.
too. Yeah,
Right. So
Yeah.
I think that's the key component here. If this is important to you, it's my job to communicate it and we'll request it
Yeah.
if it's important to you. And a lot of times they say, well, everything's important to me. It's like, okay, well, then we're gonna have a long repairman. You know what I mean? And those are
what I usually say as well is we like to keep it most of the time to safety related items, anything that's flagged as a fire hazard or, if there's something that's super important to you, let's throw that in, just because you don't want them to, oh, I want the whole report fixed. Well, I mean, I think there needs to be a little bit level of guidance
Yeah.
there. Like, otherwise, it's like, I want the whole report fixed. It's like, well, this home is 55 years old. Like, there's going to be some deficiencies here, but any fire hazards, anything that's super important, any non-negotiables in your mind, let's include those items. That's kind of what I say.
What I
Otherwise,
started.
you're going to write down 58 things.
Yeah. Well, actually, what helped me after that first experience was like, okay, um, what can I do best? Like, what can I do more or less guiding them, but without giving them my personal advice? And one thing that's helped me was every time we get the report, and the number one question that the client asks is, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, why don't we try this? Let's put all the repairs that the inspector is requesting. Let's send it to the seller." I said, everything is still negotiable. So the seller can say, you know what, if it's 10 things, I'll fix 5. or they may fix all of them. I said, but at least we're submitting it in writing and saying, hey, these are the issues. What are you willing to fix? And 9 out of 10 times they're like, you know what, that's a good idea. And most of the time, they've turned out to fix all of them, except maybe one or two where, again, they're minor things where the builder's like, hey, I mean, we'll give you a concession or we'll do this, or they'll work around it. So, but that saves me as far as if they, because even then you'll do everything the right way and you'll still have clients when you close. Oh, but the realtor told me to do this. Like, wait a minute, do you remember this conversation? Ah, sí, cierto. It's they'll still throw you under the bus even if you're doing everything right. So
Yeah.
so
I
yeah,
have
that's
some coming back.
me.
I have some who's come out of the woodwork a year later that is
Ooh.
bugging me right now about it. So they never go.
Uh,
Yeah, it's true. So, just remember, we're real estate professionals. Our job is to help these clients secure the home, negotiate the contract, get them into the home, and believe me, I know we have to wear a lot of hats, but we're not. And this, I always think this is funny. What does the title commitment mean? I don't know. I have no idea. You know what I mean? That's an attorney question, or we need to get the escrow officer on the phone. You know what I mean? Same thing with the contract. Well, what does this mean? Ugh, hit the brakes, right? We can read them the contract. We can't interpret the contract. We can't paraphrase the contract. We can't, you know what I mean? So we have to really understand where we fall in the spectrum and stay in that lane. And it's very difficult because what's the number one question that people have? It's about their financing. It's always about the financing. So we need to know a little bit about it, but we need to refer them to a lender. And the lender needs to be the one to ask. I have one right now, and she's real concerned about her rate lock. And it's like, I can't go into that with you. You need to contact your lender. So just remember, we always want to CYA, right? And y'all know what that means, right? You got to cover your tail and make sure that we're looking out for the client's best interest, but at the same time, we want to be the source of the source. Our job is to make the process easy and try to take as much stress out of it. And a lot of times we absorb some of that stress, but that's our job. We're supposed to be like the duck. We're the duck floating on the pond, right? And everything looks real peaceful. It's like Swan Lake. You hear it in the background. But then underneath, the duck's feet are trying to stay afloat. So we got to be like the duck. So cool. Well, great discussion today, guys. I really enjoyed
Yeah.
that. Any other questions or anything else I can help y'all with, or any other ideas in closing?
all good, all good.
Good stuff. Good
One
stuff.
thing,
Well,
one
yeah.
thing, one thing I want to end with here, and y'all may already have this, but I want to create like a one sheet Rolodex of all my go-to contractors. And I have them all randomly in my phone and, HVAC guy, but I need to have a solid list
Mhm.
and put it on my desk. Because as y'all know, all we're doing all the time is referring people. So if you don't already have that list, I think that's good homework for next week. Alan was asking me, he's working, one of the San Antonio files, and he's like, "Who do you have for this? Who do you have for this? Who do you have for?" I sent him like 5 contractors, but I was like, I need to just have those in my own, go-to handy list. And if one fucks you over, then substitute that name, put another name in there, whatever.
We have a Google sheet that I started with like home inspectors, home inspectors in San Antonio, home inspectors in the Valley, um, some painters. some GC work. So if you come across any of them, just let me know and I can add them in the tabs. Because now what I'm just doing is when we send that email out to clients, like, oh, it's time to, here's some recommendations for a home inspection. And you know how we used to put the three. Um, Now I just send them a link to the roster and I'm like, there's like 20 something on there. You
Oh,
pick
that's
one,
smart.
like I don't want to be liable if you don't like your inspector because we didn't
Yeah.
tell you to pick the inspector. We gave you a list of recommendations. But if you have, Dan, if you have, people that you want to put on the roster, because I do need to fill up the roster,
Yeah.
just send them my way and then I'll just add them to the spreadsheet at the Google Drive. So everybody will have, you need a painter, this person. You need, an electrician, this person.
Yeah.
And it's just a giant digital Rolodex anyways, but you can print it out and keep it at your desk if you need to.
Okay, cool. And I need to do the same for new home consultants. It's like if there's 10 go-to builders, I need 10 go-to reps on speed dial, you know. So, and I have them somewhere in the trenches of my phone notes somewhere.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good idea. And what we can do is we can share that list,
Of course.
with whoever. And the other thing that I'll send to you, Horacio. I think Daniel, you already have it, but I have a pre-inspection message that I send every
Oh yeah,
single
this is
buyer.
good. I've been sending it all the
And
time.
then also have a post-inspection message. Okay, because right away they get the inspection and they don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
So I have a pre and a post inspection message. So what I'll do in the video recording, I'll include it in the comments, and Horacio, I'll send it to you. And if you want to use it, if you want to make it your own or change it, whatever. But I find that the inspection is one of the hardest pieces in a real estate transaction. So anytime you're trying to manage a hard thing like that, the biggest objective is to handle the objections, right? And set up the expectation up front. So they need to understand what's going on. They need to understand what the inspector is going to be pointing out, which is everything, because that's the inspector's job.
Yeah.
So they need to understand that because people right away, they get the inspection report, they think their house is falling apart,
Yeah.
even though it's not. So I'll send you both of those that can help manage your clients' expectations and handle those objections.
Yeah,
Cool?
and it's really good because you're going to be saying that information anyway to each client, and it kind of automates the process, So, but the biggest thing it does is it prepares them for the hell that they're going to be reading because it's like, oh, Daniel said it was going to be ugly, and yeah, and not to be scared and not to run, and this is how the
Yeah.
hell are.
That's what I tell them too. It's like an inspector's job is to look at every inch of the house. If there's chip paint, they're gonna put it on there. If there's like a little crack in the plug outlet, they're gonna put it there. So you're gonna get an inspection report that may be quite lengthy, but that doesn't mean that the house is falling apart and that there's safety issues. It's like that's their whole role to look at the whole nook and cranny of the house. And then I think it kind of puts their mind at ease because, like Daniel said, like when they get the inspection report, they're already expecting it to have
Yeah.
more information. And they're like, okay, maybe my house isn't falling apart. It's like maybe it is just something small, you know.
And even in that little blurb that Alan's talking about, we mentioned in there that one of the longest inspection reports we've ever received was for a brand new construction home. So don't be alarmed. And
Oh
that's a
yeah,
true story. That's a true story.
yeah. Always recommend a third party inspector for new construction for sure.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah. So, well, cool guys. Well, I'll share that information. Horacio, I know we have a meeting that was scheduled to be in Mission this Thursday. Josie and I won't be able to make it, but only because we have family in town for spring break and stuff like that. But these meetings are really, really good. We're trying to do them Upper Valley, Lower Valley. We're trying to alternate them. But yeah, so plan on the regional rally for sure. The
Yeah.
next RGV meetup, those are always really, really good. And then we have our lunch and learn in San Antonio coming up on the 10th. So a lot of good
Right.
stuff
Yeah.
going on. And then there's also another group based out of Harlingen. They do weekly luncheons and they're normally in Westlaco. So,
Okay.
it's not as far as Mission and McAllen, but they do, I think they're doing one tomorrow at a coffee shop here in Westlaco. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. We want to get all the agents here in the area plugged in. So that way, if you run across someone and they want some more information, invite them over to the lunch in Westlaco, just to come hang out, just
Yeah,
to
for
kind
sure.
of feel the vibe, get to know some of the people, and break some bread and have a conversation. Because that's the thing is we want to just be like an open book. Of course, we have our Tuesday at 10 every week, so please come. Keep tuning into this and invite your guests. We have our luncheons now every Wednesday in Westlaco. Even Josie says, "Man, our calendar fills up real fast." Because there's a lot of good events going on.
Very
We're really
exciting.
trying to strengthen the community, here in the valley, and bring the Upper Valley and Lower Valley, bring everyone together. And
Horacio, real quick, before we break off, Alan and I met with a super powerful EXP agent. His name is Super Dave Gagnon, and he extended his helping hand to us. So he was like, if you have an agent that's a heavy hitter that you know of, get me on a three-way call with them. We'll do a Zoom, we'll do a call. I can co-sponsor. But everything this guy says, you believe it, and your agent will believe it. And he's agent like number 99 out of 90,000. He's one of the OGs.
Okay.
He's making like 1.5 mil a year rev share. He doesn't have to work another day in his life, but he's willing to help us grow.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind if you have any agents, that are kind of on your radar.
Okay.
Uh, he's ready to book a call like within a day or two at any.
Perfect.
So just keep that in your back pocket because I know Alan and I and Josie were great resources to help you, but this guy, he has the seniority and the experience on top of what we can offer. So
Right.
sometimes that's really important.
and his wife she's in our organization. So his wife is Tracy Gagnon, she's about either 3 or 4 levels up from us. So it's in his best interest to help Tracy's organization and vice versa, right? So
Right.
so they have a lot to gain. So it's a symbiotic relationship. When they win, we win, and everyone wins. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
just
I'll be slowly getting back into it, but I know I'll
yeah,
be going full force. Hopefully, maybe within another week or so, and I need to hit the ground running. So
for sure. Well, just let us know if you need any help. All right, man. Don't
awesome.
hesitate. Reach out. And if us personally can't do it, we'll find an agent that can help you, man. So just let us know. Cool.
Appreciate that, guys. Thank you.
Okay. All right,
All
guys.
right.
Well, y'all have a good rest of your day. Go out and sell something, and we'll see y'all next Tuesday. Thank y'all for tuning in, guys.
All right. Later.
Y'all take care.